Hello and welcome back to video 2 of the How to Read Your Insurance Policy video series. We're glad to have you back. In video 1, we went over how to read the basic parts of your declarations page. So who's insured, who's the insurance provider, how long is the insurance going to last, and a few other basic pieces of info. And now we're going to get more into the meat of the policy. So what we're going to do now is go over coverage limits. So limits for property and limits for liability or casualty. Those terms are used interchangeably. So as you can see on the picture that we have on the screen, this is from a sample declarations page. The government of Maryland put this out for people to help read their policies. It makes it easy. It's not going to apply to your coverage necessarily as far as the limits go, but it's good to have a visual. So coverage A, also known as dwelling coverage, is coverage for your home. Now, if you have a condo, it may not list it as dwelling, but there's usually, they'll call it additions and alterations, maybe the term used on the condo policy, but it's a similar concept. There is no coverage A on a renter's policy because you don't have an interest in the actual building. You're renting it. It's just your contents and yourself that you care about there. And then you have coverage B. So coverage B is also known as other structures coverage, detached structures coverage, a pertinent structures coverage. No one uses the word a pertinent outside of the legal world or insurance world. So don't worry about that term. But if you do see it on a policy, that's what it's talking about. So other structures are usually a structure that's not physically at least partially attached to a home. So you could be talking about a pool house. You could be talking about a barn in the backyard. You could be talking about sheds, hardscape, things like that. So, or even a pool might fall under other structures. A patio, again, patio driveway falls into the hardscape realm. And so that's something that's going to be covered under coverage B, or maybe it's a detached garage. And that's going to be a separate limit of the homeowner coverage. Then you have personal property or contents coverage. It's known as coverage C. Personal property or contents, again, are used somewhat interchangeably, just like casualty and liability. There's a lot of terms used for with the same intent. And so you're going to have a specific limit for that. It's very important to know when we talk about personal property or contents, we are not talking about valuables. So in the sense of jewelry, fine art, furs, guns, antiques, stuff like that. Not all of that is necessarily going to be covered under contents. When you think of contents, think about your general belongings. Your couch, your chairs, your desk, your electronics, stuff like that are usually going to be what falls under this limit. To properly cover especially higher valued jewelry items, fine art pieces, furs, guns, coins, other collectibles that may have a sublimit on the policy, which we'll talk about later. That's done separately via endorsement or possibly via a separate policy entirely. So you can come to us for help with that, but it's important to note, don't assume that all your belongings are covered under contents, just more general day-to-day use belongings. And then you have coverage D. Coverage D is not a coverage for something physical per se. It's coverage for after you have a loss and need to maintain your standard of living. So coverage D is also known as loss of use. It is known as additional living expenses. And with those two things, it's basically in the name. So if you lose access to your home because it had a fire and the insurance provider is covering that loss, which most homeowner policies should be covering, you are then going to get payments towards living somewhere else while it's being repaired, or until you decide if you actually want to repair it or want to just take a claims payout. And different providers offer different things for that. But generally, the principle is you want to maintain your standard of living. So you may have to stay in a hotel or rent a home nearby, but you don't want to have to go too far. If you have kids, you want them to be able to get to school easily still if you live close to the school to begin with. It's not going to be providing an increase in your standard of living. If you were living in a small home in a little town, they're not going to send you to the Ritz in the nearest city. It's not going to work that way. It shouldn't work that way. But it is going to help maintain your standard of living until repairs are made. That is what's known as Section 1 of the policy. In video number 3, we're going to go over Section 2 of the policy. Section 2 is dealing with things not necessarily that you own, but with damages you might cause somebody else, or to cause somebody else's belongings. And so thank you again for stopping by. I am Hayden Kopser, co-founder and president of North Improvement LLC. You can find all of our contact info in the details of this video. But if you want to give me a call or text me, 212-495-9172, or shoot me an email, Hayden, HAYDEN, @northimprovement.com. I'll be sure to get back promptly and hope to hear from you. And more importantly, we hope to have you back for video number 3, where we go over liability/casualty insurance.